Docking request accepted.
All right. Good morning, New Eden. Today is October 21st, 2025, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have Orion Sa Solo. How's it going?
It's going well, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So we're gearing up, and we're right in the middle of, and almost at the end of. Do you know when is voting? Is that the?
Let me check the
I feel
thing
like it's
here.
coming up like this weekend, right?
It is coming up very close. Voting starts the 27th. So
27th. So
yeah,
1 week away from today, basically.
right after the AT
And then that stays open for how many days? That's
to November 10th. So
okay. So
I can't see my toes, so I can't get that high on the numbers
So
right
we're
now.
deep in the campaign trail where you can get out ahead of somebody voting already, but there is a large chunk of time for people to be able to vote, and but this is like deep into the campaigning. So I've seen you around some podcasts. You've been on CCP's interview, was really awesome. Um, so tell me, what do you think the CSM is? What is the CSM to you, and how do you think you fit in with the CSM?
The CSM's an advocate for folks. Like, we're there to help let CCP know, hey, there's something going on that needs change, or this is what we see that needs to be adjusted. This is what the player base is saying needs to have happen to make this game better. You know, and how I fit in is I'm gonna be a big advocate that I have the time to work my ass off and be a part of this. This is my main focus right now. I'm taking some time for me to do what I've always kind of dreamed of doing, working and doing stuff in Eve and helping it out.
Awesome. And so, for the folks that don't know your history, can you give us a breakdown? What did you do to get into Eve Online? Where did life go wrong?
Right. So my uncle actually brought me into the game. He's like, "Hey, have you played this Eve game?" I was like, "Nope." And I started playing it, and then literally a week later, they're forcing me to start a corporation. So I started Yulai Heavy Industries 7 days into playing the game, and then ran that for God. How long did I run that corporation for? Probably a couple years, and then we did the normal thing. We progressed, built capitals even eventually, and then we went to
So
Null Sec.
primarily like industrial kind
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
nice.
My uncle and them didn't. They were on every other day or so. They did indie stuff. I recruited a bunch of folks, and we did mining fleets, sat out in space, and that's probably what helped me through a lot of things in my life. I sat and after my father passed, I was pretty down with things. The military let me have some time off, so I just sat in mine belts in mind and hung out with folks on TeamSpeak, and that helped me get through a lot of that. And that's one reason why I really love this game. It's given me a lot of friends and folks to hang out with.
Yeah, mining, in the beginning when can be kind of when you can get like a group of people to do it. So it's mostly in high sec where did you do any adventuring out into low sec at all in the beginning, or you just primarily, like, was it all about like shipping? I bet would probably be another big thing that your corporation had to do then. Did you
We
like build stuff and then sell it in system, or?
Yeah, it was we had a person who'd played the game a little bit longer than most of us, and he helped build all that stuff and do all that shipping stuff for us. I got very lucky. I am not an industrial person. I know some of the bits and bobs because I ran a corporation for it, but I'm the person that goes, okay, you're smarter at this than me. Can you help us do that thing? And that's exactly what I did for everything. And then I did get a taste of LoSec. I ran into a couple guys on a public fleet. That's when one of my things is about doing more events. I saw a public fleet out there, and I joined it. And I first set up PvP was in LoSec. I forget where. It's been forever, but that's where I got my first taste of PvP. That gave me the the thought process. Why don't we go try this in Null? We're doing okay here. We could make so much more Null. Let's go to Null. And I convinced everyone. We shipped ourselves off to Null as renters.
Where did you end up settling in Null?
So we were in Ethereum Reach for a long time. We were renters we were with an alliance called the Serenity Initiative. We rented from XIX at the time. And then after about a year or so of that, I think is when Triumvirate version 6, whenever version of Triumvirate was, showed up, and they evicted us out of there for the most part. So my corp was kind of in flux at that time. It was their first. Well, these folks were fairly new to the game. That was their first eviction, and so some broke off and stayed with the alliance. And I broke off, and I found PvP was my thing. I loved fighting, even though we were losing. Fighting against Triumvirate at the time, I think it was probably the most fun I had in a long time at that time. So I was like, okay. And then I floated around a little bit and ended up joining a group. You ever heard of Ez and Wiz, the drug group that used to be in Fountain?
Not familiar. Familiar with Fountain area pretty well, like messing around in there, but not definitely not all the corporations, unfortunately.
Ez and Wiz was an alliance that did a lot of the drug making. Probably one of the biggest drug makers in Eve for a long time. And I joined that group before they shuttered their doors. And then we created a corporation called Lethal Injection, which I was in for the majority of my time in Eve, and lived out in Fountain. And then that alliance, of course, consolidated, and then we ended up joining the Culture. Joined the Culture for a while. They ended up collapsing and so on and so forth. I just traveled along between these other alliances, ended up going to CO2 for a bit. I was in Triumvirate for a little bit, PL, this last stint before I took a little break from Eve. And now I'm with the Minmatar Fleet Alliance doing faction warfare stuff.
Nice. So how's it going in faction warfare? So did you do any faction warfare back in the old days, or is this are you jumping into the new setup that they've created?
So I did do some faction warfare. I'm actually previously a Federation Minuteman with the I did a little bit of it. I was by myself, so it wasn't the experience I probably could have had. I didn't mind it. It's just I was by myself, kind of floating around, so I didn't get into it too much. And then I took a break, came back after being away from PL. My friend who was with me joined Minmatar Fleet Alliance with Bear That Cares, and said, "Come over here, you'll have fun." And it's been a blast ever since. I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah, so being part of Minmatar, you're over in the Amar Minmatar War Zone. So you guys are right now, from what I understand, is one of the most heated war zones in faction warfare. The Galente Caldari war zone is considered a little bit more sided with. I feel like the Amar Minmatar seem to have actually a pretty even fight between them to a certain degree. There's at least recently there have been times that each side has kind of dominated, but that's one of the things that it's kind of gone back and forth quite a bit. Whereas the Caldari have always held like a numerical superiority. Jidda access, living in Jidda, starting the game. Anybody who knows what's anything, jumping into the game, will want to go with the Caldari. Also, they got the PNI, and we've got all of our ships nerfed recently. So that,
yeah. Oh man, the rail nerf had to be hard for a lot of you guys.
Oh yeah, real rough. Yeah, it was. It's like we're targeting the Caldari, and we're like, those are our rails, man. So, what do you think of the new setup of front lines, and how is the war going over in Minmatar?
As to the new setup, I don't mind it so much. I think there's some changes we could do within it to help folks, because like for me, defensive plexing, you see a lot of unfit ships, poorly fit ships, like one or two slots in the lows, and that's it, and they're just sitting in there running up the timer or doing whatever. One of the things I would like to see is a rat or something spawn to force those folks to do something. At least fit some things on that ship to make it to where if I slide into a plex and shoot someone in there, that's not just an empty hull.
Right. Yeah. No. The empty hulls out there. Although I see them a lot less. Defensive plexing, you definitely see them for sure. Like that's. Yeah. And I've always been personally a big advocate for getting rid of offense and defense. There should just be frontline systems
Mhm.
And every system that is, you should not have, you should always have, just like the pirates have, there's only
Mhm.
offensive plexing. There is no
Mhm.
defensive plexing. If you're doing defense, there's always, there's two rats inside of there, one that's blue, one that's red. They've
Mhm.
already shown that they can do this. They can have three or four, and they can make it a little bit more, um, they've been doing that with what they did with Pirate Faction. I wish that they would bring over to our Warzone, because
Mhm.
I don't think that there's any benefit to defensive flexes. Like overall, they're just a worse game mechanic. The only thing that I will say, the only reason why I feel like I would like defensive flexing is when I'm purely looking for PvP and
Mhm.
I don't want to care about PvE at all. And therefore, I don't care about my reward, because the reward is always going to be worse than offensive flexing. Um, in general, um, you're also not, well. You can pick up. I shouldn't say at this point in time you can pick up tags. They should also maybe fix that too, so you can't just go get a bunch of There's some really cool items inside of Rex if you haven't checked, especially since the update to Skinner. There's a bunch of Skinner shit that is really
Mhm.
rare. Anyways, so what are you currently up to in Minmatar? Fleet. What are you guys currently doing?
Right now, we're running mostly casual fleets for most part. We don't have any big objectives right now. Just doing casual fleets. We just picked up a new European time zone corp, and they've been killing it. New Eden Yacht Club, and they've been running casual pings and helping. That's been helping us a lot in the war zone because they're being far more active. Because during EU time zone, they we tend to lose a lot of ground because between FRT, the EU time zone folks, they really push that so the US time zone doesn't get a lot of push, and then they can flip that entire advantage back over by the time we get back there in US time zone. So, Union Club, shout out to you guys. You guys have been killing it lately. And for me personally, I've just been trying to do this CSM stuff. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we're doing brawl for CSM on Friday. 0-100. We're going to be doing. I sent it to Young Puke. He's going to bring his fleet of dudes. But the goal was to try to get the faction warfare groups and Mar, you guys. Hopefully, if the Galente and Cal Mill would show up, just bring T1 cruisers. I've got 400 Minmatar ones to hand out, and then they can all die. I've got my Haw Dread I'm planning on bringing in, so that way there's at least a dread kill for folks. Just
Oh,
I sent it
damn!
all. I sent
What
all
time
the
is this at?
CSMs. This is gonna be Amamake 01 Friday.
I'm
So it'd
in
be Saturday
Friday.
Eve
Okay.
time, but Friday.
Yep.
But yeah, hopefully it'll be a fun thing. I've got 400 ships to hand out. I'll use my Haw Dread if it gets a little boring, so at least a dread kill there, and just I sent it out to the CSMs in that Discord channel I'm sure you were a part of last year. Be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I said I want more events in Eve. Let's do this. Let's do a thing.
Absolutely, that's awesome. It's cool to gather up the CSM in an in-game event, um, and putting it out there that you got the ability to field some fun. And this sounds like something that I would encourage everybody to go jump in on this.
Is it okay? I link stuff in the
Oh yeah,
the.
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so there's the Reddit post for it. I don't have very good luck with Reddit. I posted a joke thing on Reddit about me saying I'd literally fight the CCP for everybody, and it got mixed reviews.
Reddit is a rough. It is definitely a rough place to if you don't have a huge group of people that are posting behind you or a bot army. um,
Oh, I don't care less. I was just trying to be funny. I posted it in the chat there, but it's just like CCP was streaming, and this is one of the things I was talking about more events in Eve. I didn't know CCP was going to be out. It wasn't planned. I don't know how long. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything. But I saw them streaming. I was like, oh, well, they hadn't had any content in a while. It didn't look like, so they were kind of floating. So I was like, I'm next door. They're in Amamake. So I undocked my dread, jumped the gate, warped to the sun, and threw down with them, and it was great fun. But pro tip: use cap guns when fighting Barbarogas. Haul guns do not do as well against them.
So, what kind of fights are you kind of getting into right now? Because I know the Galente war zone, we're at about, the Galente can field between 15 to like 30 people is like some of our largest fleets. We might be able to push the limit depending on, time of day and, if you catch it all at the right time, maybe. Of course, we've been actually very hurt by the Alliance tournament because everybody's doing Alliance tournament stuff. So we've definitely see a very large decline in because there's only so many of us. I mean, if there's 10 plus people that need to go training, they're not going to be able to be out on the field. And when you're only at 30, that's 1/3 of your fighting force if you're at your peak. Like.
Oh yeah. For us, peak time zone, we can run a lot of dudes. I mean, you can I can show you some fights we've had recently. Like recently, we just killed a Blood Raider Sotoyo. We stole it from underneath. I'm guessing Big AB associations with them. We ended up dropping a few caps, lost freighters, 2 freighters. We ended up getting the strong box. We were going to get the strong box, and someone else worked in a freighter or signed in a freighter, looted the strong box. We shot that freighter. Strong box didn't drop. So we lost that opportunity there. So
kill the freighter though. That's gotta feel good.
Oh yeah, we killed some dreads too. It was one of those things where it's just wild things happen in our war zone, and it's good because we don't have a huge oppressive. Like we are the bully of the faction warfare group on average, and Sedition's there. They can do some fun things, and they do some great things there too. We also have Big AB next door, so we can't get wild, but we can do some fun things. Like we have folks shooting haw dreads all over the place, all over the war zone to kind of create content and do things.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome. I know that we do that to a small degree, and we have that in the area to a small degree. But you guys, I've seen some crazy shit coming out of the Minmatar Mar war zone. So yeah, you guys have. Let me take a look at this here real quick.
And then we've had the militia itself during this time zone does some fun fights against Fraternity. They'll bring a couple cenotaphs and a smaller fleet against them, and still come out pretty well.
123 to 72, fighting with it's like
it's a lot of different folks, and their snuff showed up at one point.
I saw some of that. Yeah, there was Deep Wheeler Hooligans. No safe word.
So, fun fact about them: they are a former EU time zone corp from us that's moved on. I think they're doing wormholes now. I'm not sure, but they showed up as well. It's just you never know who's going to show up in our war zone half the time. I've seen Cal Mill fly through numerous times.
Yeah, there's it looks like a lot of fun that's going on over there. When it comes to the mechanics of the war zone, how do you feel about the current setup where owning space is not as important, or is it extremely important to have station control in the Minmatar war zone?
So I do have some thoughts on that. One of the things I don't think it could ever happen, but I think it's something that would make. I want faction warfare to be warfare. I want it to fight. I want to have a reason to fight. So, in my humble opinion, there should be no neutral structures. Leave the station mechanics the same way in faction warfare. Citadels need to have the same thing. You can't anchor neutral structures. It needs to be affiliated with one of the militias.
Oh, neutral's getting kicked out. I agree with that, actually. I think that would be... I mean, they're going to join, probably, but then they join. Like, they have to deal with the mechanics of that. And it has to be... And then that would be full enlistment. It wouldn't be enlistment. You can't enlist your corporation or your alliance. You can, but when you do that, like, it's everybody in the entire corporation. Sorry, you can't do the, like, jump in and out, kind of thing that you can do as in any kind of neutral corporation. And that would give a huge boost to people being able to give a reason to actually be a Minmatar or Galente or a militia, because a militia alliance right now is capping themselves in the knee. You don't have to be. The only reason, there's one reason, and that's because people don't have the standings, or you're trying to do an AWOXing corp. Like those are either let you AWOX. Basically, it allows you to AWOX. It's about the only thing that joining does that is a benefit right now, which is something I've been dealing with internally, because for a long time I've been like, I'm hardcore Galente, but now I can be Galente in anything else. I can go off and be something else now with my corporation, because I can just enlist myself and encourage my friends to enlist. But there's a whole other game out there, and so one of the things that I found interesting is they put so much time and effort into faction warfare, and then what did they do? They created enlistment, which made it so that everybody kind of you don't have to stay in faction warfare to be deep into faction warfare, but it really encourages you to not be in faction warfare. I feel like, at least when it comes to Galente numbers, I don't think have really increased too much since. And like numbers wise, I feel like we're the same that we were 5 years ago.
And that's the thing. I know you guys are heavily oppressed by a larger group in your area for the most part. For larger, you guys really can't do larger cap escalation stuff due to your war zone the way it is. So
having
I feel you're all staying there.
Our neighbor who will crush everything and anything that walks or smells even close to being a true battle cruiser size or higher is one of those kind of crazy. There is fighting that definitely does happen. There are areas, and snuff isn't everywhere, to be honest. But they are watching the main thoroughfares, and they're their home is right in the center of our war zone.
And that's one reason why I was like, low sec, let it be neutral, home ground to do different things, do all that stuff for the snuffs and those groups and all that other thing. But for faction warfare, let's make it faction warfare. Let's put some skin in the game, make folks more buy-in for it. Is there risk to it? Yeah, you're doing faction warfare. You're fighting, lore-wise for owning this area. Put the effort into it. Let's do that thing. There's all kinds of small mechanics we can look at to help make things a little easier, like tags. For your sec status stuff. That's an older system that a lot of new folks don't really know about, and then all of a sudden they're neg 10, they don't know what to do with themselves. Hopefully by the time they reach neg 10 they know what they're doing, but what I'm saying is it's one of the things they don't know. Do you know how to put a ship caster or to put the stuff in the ship caster thing? Most new faction warfare pilots know nothing about the ship caster. It's things like that. I think we could go a long way to helping newer pilots by iterating on those systems to make them a little bit more intuitive for folks.
Yeah, so the Peanut Hulk says dread PvE spawns in FW space. I'm actually one of I feel like we should be able to upgrade our space, not exactly like 0.0, but similar to 0.0 of have a bunch of anomalies that can spawn and reoccurring PvE sites that are and dread spawns and stuff like that you could summon to the area. And the thing is that if there's it's much harder to control that ISK fountain than anywhere else, I feel like, in EVE. If you're in 0.0 and you get all these bonuses to being able to put out different anomalies that respawn, and there's you can ensure that there's not going to be a group that's going to come in and easily jump on you because your docking rate access is completely locked out. I kind of like your idea of we even control the stations, where it's you got to actually be part of our group. You can't even be neutral to do anything,
I mean, I've heard all kinds of different theories on stuff. I think someone mentioned somewhere being able to shut off station services in frontline systems.
Oh yeah, so they used to have that mechanic.
Yeah, it was pretty toxic sometimes. I remember having our cloning bay shut off in our main station in Null Sec, and you're like, that's not fun. That's not a fun thing. But yeah, and there's been other theories come up why don't we get access to level 6s? level 6 missions for faction warfare stuff, things like that, to maybe give a bonus to earning some ISK in the area. Last year I didn't plex near as much as probably you or others have plexed before, but I still had like 7 billion worth of LP, and that paid out very well. So I didn't, if you're doing it on budget, you can earn plenty enough LP to survive in a war zone and not have to worry about PvE stuff unless you're really working to try to plex your accounts for some reason with it.
Yeah, there's some interesting kind of concepts of farm and fields that I feel like is because it's more dangerous than anywhere to do your farm and fielding. So like, I really don't agree with it being easy, is the thing. And I don't want it to be too much on the forcing you to be in a big group, because then that forces the whole concept of like botting, or not botting, but multi-boxing. Or botting is the big one that happens when it's all small shit. Like if you can just do something really easy with an unfit ship, it's easy to just get a bot army to go out and do stuff for you. And in any case, though, let's go ahead and move on to your platform. What is it that you're going to be talking about? Are you focused 100% on faction warfare continued upgrades, or do you feel like you're looking to try and include everybody inside of your campaign?
I mean, ideally, if you're doing faction warfare stuff, ideally you're including everyone in that. Hopefully everyone touches on these things. So faction warfare is what I'm doing right now, but I've been null block. I've flown fleets and FC fleets in null block. I've done high sec mining fleets and stuff like that. So I've done all that stuff. So I know where folks are coming from. I know a lot of the pinch points for everything. The only thing I haven't done is wormholes. The stuff's spooky. I can't see local. I can't put it as primary. So, but I've done a little bit of wormholes. It just wasn't my thing at the time. I do want to go do that. My main thing, one of my bigger focuses is more events. Like there needs to be more events in EVE to get more folks in space. Because the more folks we get in space, the more stuff we can have happen to get folks into the game. The only time EVE breaks out of its sphere of spaceship stuff is when we have one of those giant fights where mini titans die, or someone did a whoopsie or something like that. So more events we can have, the more folks we can get in space, the more cross pollination between high sec, low sec, wormholes, null, Hotchfin, whatever.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the idea of what you think an event is? Because there's different ways of interpreting that word quite a bit. So there's there's an event going on right now. There's an event that happens like all the time. There's these the Halloween event. But is that the event that you're talking about, or are you talking about like when CCP goes roaming on Friday nights?
So this is gonna sound bad, but all of it. I don't know how pressed they are for time until I get in or hear more from that. I don't know, but ideally I'd like to have 4 seasonals. Kind of like the Halloween event. If they need to short it down, whatever. But 4 seasonal events, because if you look, about 3K extra people show up for these seasonal events when they first kick off. Mm-hmm. Folks are out there PvPing, running the sites, doing those things. There's more people in space. There's more people to shoot. Like why not? Why not do more of that? And then I think, folks who are very lore-based and want to do that lore stuff, they don't have to do these big lore events like they did with Pochvin and Drifters and stuff like that. They can simply take a character within the lore, take a week-long thing, and just do a small event. Week-long, maybe a weekend even. Something to get some folks involved to do different things, to go different things. And then you can get the lore folks, the folks who love the lore involved. And these other events, like I love the Class 2s and the Class 3s to get folks flying different ships, frigates and stuff like that. So you don't have to drive a Marauder into the gauntlets to get some other the stuff and do this whole event. I love that. We need more of that. And I think in between these seasonal events, we can have, every other month or a week-long event of just give out some skins. Folks love the skins. Add more skins to the thing, some SP boosters, get folks in there, especially for the low SP pilots from high sec and stuff like that. You throw out SP in some of these events somehow or another, you'll have all these guys skilled up, and they'll be in faction warfare or null sec shooting different things. And then, of course, like you said, CCP, yes, announce it. Hey, CCP, we're going to go roaming next week. Don't tell them where. Just say, hey, next week we're going to be streaming, doing X. Like, get them out there as much as they can. I understand that all CCP plays Eve as their thing, but if the devs and the folks can do it, like it was great to see Loru and that group hop in Barbarogos and show up. Like I love watching CCP Swift fly around when he was in what was that the Kesriel earlier. I still have that fit sitting around so that way I can go fly one myself. Seeing those folks, especially who played Eve, like Sutonia and those other guys who are now the CCP devs, seeing them in space, like that's like, wow, that's awesome. I want to get to that point or do something like that. Some folks may say.
So one of the things that I've always kind of been trying to advocate for is for CCP to start running fleets. To be honest, like I think there should be faction warfare, and I think that what they do, because if it wasn't for faction warfare, I think that I actually would agree that they should probably not be running even NPSI fleets. But even then, I think no, I take that back. NPSI fleets would be really cool, but I think that faction warfare fleets would be really interesting to see them go. I'm CCP Swift. I'm going to gather up, go into militia chat and be like, hey, I need people to come here to join these comms. We're not in a day and age where comms are hard to get people on and stuff like that, and it's EVE Online, so I do it, and PSI does it all the time. You're going to deal with spies. Everybody deals with spies. Like, they don't need, as somebody big might come in and jump them, but somebody else big might come in and know that other person big is coming in to jump. And there might be a cycle of insanity that can be stirred up just by... So, and the reason why I say this with a big confidence, though, is because when I went out with CCP, when I went to Iceland, they gathered up, like, I think it was like about 50 of us or so, and we just went out and just flew around in really awesome ships. Now, they handed out a whole bunch of ships. I don't think they should hand out ships if, unless they're, doing, FanFest type thing is when, it's all come and we'll give you ships type thing. But I feel like CCP could be leading some PvP in this game. That they've taken a step back so far from being able to influence people to be part of their fleet, and I don't see from my interactions with them why it would be a problem to not lead fleets with people.
Yeah, I see. Again, I don't know. I would love to see it. They don't even have to do PvP. They could literally just go to High Sec and do a mining fleet or run an event with a bunch of folks and show folks and just be out in space. Just being out in space itself is a fun thing. I don't know the difficulties they would have for that, but I would love to see them run around faction warfare as part of a faction. We used to, how fun would it be to have a CCP Galente or a CCP Minmatar, CCP Amar, just to fly around and show up. Hey, we're going to do a faction warfare fleet, and we're all going to meet here. All the factions are going to fight, or even have a lore thing tied to it. Like, hey, all the factions are coming together to fight. CCP team has ISDs and all these other folks. Run folks down that way and do that. Get people involved. Like you may actually pick up lore folks from HighSec who just do the lore stuff, get involved in faction warfare because they want to be a part of a lore event that's happening.
Absolutely. So Brick Wall does suggest here, I want to see what your feelings on this are, is limiting the amount of people that can get into a Plex, or maybe having specific Plexes that are designed where you can only put 2v2.
It's an idea. I don't know. People are going to hate it or love it no matter what you do. I think it'd be pretty fun. As long as
I think it would be very gameable is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
or not gameable.
In all reality,
it's, you just get you get four of yourselves together, and then you just don't, shoot each other. You control.
Well, I mean, the plexes are kind of like that anyway, for the most part. If you're in a novice one, how often do you have two folks show up after you've been scrammed by the brick tanked Punisher? It's one of those things. Would it be fun? Sure. I know folks have been wanting the 2v2s, 1v1s, and the 3x3s back as a thing.
I think the arena would be coming back would be a better spot for that than in the live war zone.
Yeah, I think the filament kind of situation or going to the arena, I think would be the better thing. I don't think we need to introduce something like that in faction warfare. Personally, now again, like I said, my whole thing is I'm going to take everyone's. If a large group of folks wants something, if it's more than however many people I think, then obviously it's something we ought to look at least and see what iteration we can make to make that something that's worthwhile to put into the game. Just saying delete local like they did last time. Let's iterate and go a little bit before we delete local like we did last time. I know some folks love it. PvPers loved it, but no one that did the farming stuff loved it at all, and that's why we lost who knows how many thousand people playing at that point.
Yeah, that is a huge one. When you don't boost the reward, but you increase the risk, was a very interesting choice. And that was it was kind of put out there as to be an event, type kind of thing. But it was those are one of the, it feels like, the bad events. Like that can be you got to be careful with events sometimes to make sure that it doesn't upset the balance of what's going on or drastically alter everything.
Yeah, and that's one reason folks want to run for CSM, because they want to be a part and let CCP know, like, hey, let's look at this, or hey, don't do this. This is what I'm hearing from folks, that it's going to be a bad idea. Like I said, I have my ideas, but at the end of the day, it's not my ideas. It's what folks are bringing to me that they want to bring up. Like, I have my own ideas. Everyone has their own ideas on things, but like, if you and 50, 60, 70 of your friends come to me like, hey, this is a big problem, can you push this up? That's going to be my focus. That's going to be the thing I want to push forward the most. Like, I want more events in EVE because, like I told you, more folks in space. I want faction warfare iterations because that's where I am. I like doing faction warfare. I think it's a great place to bring folks from outside the other spaces, Null and whatnot, to come fight and have some fun. I do have some cap iterations I'd like to see. I know the carrier one just came down, or getting ready to come down, I guess. And then, Dreads, I think, still needs a touch help as well. I think changing cap guns to where they can't track subcaps is a big thing that'll help folks in these larger fights, because we have guns specific for subcaps. They're haul guns. Let's use those instead of cap guns, because then that DPS comes back a little bit and subcaps have a chance to stay on grid a little bit longer than cap gun dreads. For when if you get 99% webbed by a Vindy, you're going to get smacked, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience. Fine, outstanding. I get it. It's EVE. I love it. I'm down to die all day to dreads and whatnot. But I think reducing that will help more folks stay in the fight, prolonging these fights, making them more fun for everybody.
So where do you stand on cat ears?
Not my jam, but if the masses want cat ears, the masses want cat ears. I can't fight that.
Just sell them for $60, right?
$60. Oh, let's not have another monocle debacle or the. No, I don't want to be that CCP person. If I actually get a CSM, I push the cat ear agenda.
So are there anything that you found since you've been running for CSM that you weren't aware of that the masses, have brought to you?
So a friend of mine was talking about an abyssal market, an in-game abyssal market. I know there's one outside of EVE to help sell abyssal and stuff like that, but one of my friends was like, what about an in-game abyssal market so folks can actually just sell their abyssals from inside like they can, put them on the market? I don't know what technicality or difficulties there are in that, but that's something, if folks are bringing it up, that's something that, I should bring up to folks. The other big push was a friend of mine.
Does suck to sell abyssals, like, really bad. And I get them a lot, because in PvP, solo and, small gang, and really that abyssal mod goes a long way.
Yeah, and I get that. I haven't used a lot of them besides ones I've looted off of Rex. But that's not a part of EVE. I've done a lot of gambling and mutating things like that. I tend to be as simple as I can with my PvP stuff. Like, I do Tyrannus. I am going to burn at your face and put blasters and kill you before you kill me. That is my goal. But I see the importance of it, and I see folks trying to do things with those. So if we can make folks' life easier when they're not having to deal with setting up contracts and looking on this website and doing things, maybe we can get them out in space doing more things. The easier we can make the process for folks to get out into space, the better.
Absolutely.
And of course, carriers.
Carriers.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on that?
My buddy's been on a big carrier thing, and carriers are have a little bit more utility with the conduiting folks. That's nice, but you don't see them in PvP hardly at all anymore. And so hopefully this iteration of it will help with that. I think maybe, but that's the thing. It's a I try to warn folks, especially when they bring it up, like fix carriers. Well, you can't just fix carriers. You can't. That's not an on-off switch. It takes a little bit of iteration to get them to a point to where they're useful, but not overpowered. And that's a very fine line, because as soon as they put something in the game, if we can find it to make it 100% broken, we're gonna shove that needle to 110% and try to break it as far as we can. So I would love to fix carriers. I'd love to see them in PvP more. With the NAPOC being a big thing now, folks are getting those dreams of the Golden Fleet back again. And so getting carriers back, everyone's getting that nostalgia feel of Rooks and Kings, and they want to see, Archons in space and NAPOCs and the Faxes doing their thing.
Awesome. So yeah, and is there any other parts of your platform that you want to go over? Anything that you feel passionate about that we haven't talked about yet?
Really, I really think one of the other things is limiting groups. So an alliance, if they're in faction warfare, they have a corp in faction warfare, that alliance can only be in that militia. Alliances should not be able to have multiple militias in their alliance. Example, fraternity. They have basically folks in every militia,
Right.
corp-wise. No. If you're in faction warfare as a alliance, you're in that militia. You're in one militia, not three. Because if they're typing, and there's ways around it, of course, but make them do the work for it. Make them create a whole nother alliance or corporation to do that, instead of just the alliance has a corp for each different faction warfare group or whatever. No, that's not the point, because then fraternity or whoever has eyes in every militia. Make them do the work. Make them do a spy tune. Make them do all those little things that they're supposed to do for that kind of stuff. But being in multiple militias, not what I would want out of faction warfare. If you're in faction warfare, I want you to be in that militia, helping that militia out when they need help and doing that kind of thing. Not just farming fields and stuff like that. Faction warfare, the insurgency, stuff like that, it's about fighting, about earning that space, about doing that thing. That's why that's one big thing I really want to push is, let's get folks in the militias and not have multiple groups and multiple different militias. Pick a side. Be in that side.
Awesome. Any shout outs that you want to give? Anybody that you've been working with in the CSM or in your alliance that has been somebody that you want to talk about, or any other CSM members that you feel deserve to be on a ballot?
No, well, I mean, I'm following behind someone who's already on the CSM, and I don't want to steal from them, but I really want to be a part of the CSM's Young Puke. He's the faction warfare guy. I've worked with and I've flown with Kenneth Fields from PL. He's on the CSMs running again. And Mike Azariah, he does a lot of great things for the folks in high sec. Those would be the three folks, kind of like CCP's question, that I gravitate towards. I like those guys. They're, if you need anything indie wise, you ask Kenneth, and he's like a machine. He's spitting back out the data to you. He knows that information. And Mike's just a kind dude who helps out folks. It's just, they're good folks to be around. If I'm not shout out anyone, Minmatar Fleet Alliance, we love the game. Like, you see our propaganda out there. Like, we're doing all the stuff we can to make this like undock and do stuff. Folks be like, I've never been in a group so often where they go, "Can I bring my hologram?" I'm like, yeah, send it. Do your thing. Like, no one cares. Just bring your ship, go have some fun, do some things. Are you gonna die horribly? There's a decent chance of it, depending on the situation. But go do your thing. Bear That Cares and the Alliance leader has been great in doing that kind of stuff. And then the AT team, Kermies, and all those folks over there, Bob, doing great things over there. And and thank you. And thank you for having me on here. This has been awesome. I've been in docked and hide leash for a while. I've been trying to de-scan out a fight, but I get caught up in talking, so I forget where I am.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to find something, or just go inside of a Plex and somebody will come to you fairly shortly.
Send me to I'm in a blaster comet, so I'll probably die very quickly.
You would not like me. Yeah.
No, not the rail comet. Stay away from me, dude.
Awesome.
No,
well, Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say thank you so much, man, for having me out there. I've linked all my stuff. You know, you guys have been awesome, and just vote for who you feel is gonna be best, and just do that. You know, I'm just trying to make sure that folks get a representation, whether you come from whatever walk of life. I'm mainly faction warfare, but I want this game to be better. I want this game to be better for everybody, not just faction warfare. And I think that's the matter. You know, you're going to have the block folks vote their folks in. Nothing we can do to stop that. But you can pick the folks you want to be in there by showing them, hey, we want these other guys in here as well to represent us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to hearing more from you, and hopefully to see what you do if you get in on this CSM.
No
So
worries.
thanks for coming on the show. Thank you all for watching and listening, and have a great night.